Well, folks, we have made it to the end of another week. Congratulations and happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Hornets Daily, your one-stop shop for all things Charlotte Hornets. As always, we're presented by the good people over at FanArc, and I'm your host, Vance Ballard, but you know by now you can call me VB. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us, watching along with us today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comment section. You guys know how much we enjoy watching you interact, hearing some of your thoughts on what's going on the program as we continue to grow and build this Hornets Daily family here on the show. Got a few things on the docket for today. It is still the middle of September, not the most happening time in the NBA, but we do still have a couple things buzzing down in the Queen City, and you know we're going to bring them right to you here on Hornets Daily. Charlotte has received a top 5 ranking. We'll talk about what category that ranking has come in. Kon Knueppel, we talked about him yesterday on the show. He's still getting some love from the NBA media. I'll tell you a little bit about which current big name in sports media is praising Kon now. Sion James is a name we have not mentioned in a little while here on the program. We've talked about all the rookies this summer, but definitely Sion probably the least. So we'll talk a little bit about his ceiling today and what that could be in a Charlotte Hornets uniform. And you know it wouldn't be an episode of Hornets Daily if we didn't at least mention LaMelo Ball at some point. An ESPN insider sees just 2 outcomes for LaMelo Ball this season. We'll talk about what those outcomes may be and how realistic they actually are. Now, you know we don't beat around the bush here on Hornets Daily. We like to dive headfirst into the program. That's exactly what we're going to do here today. Now, I'm not sure there has ever been a time in my life in the 32 years I've been floating around this rock. I don't think there's been a time when the Hornets were considered a top 5 team. Certainly not in the entire NBA. The 2015-2016 team was close to maybe being a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference, but I think even that would be a stretch. They did not get a top 5 seed in the playoffs that year. So I think even that would be a stretch. Now, not all of the current rankings have Charlotte at the stats and rankings that come out have Charlotte at the bottom of the league. There is a few statistics that pop up every now and then that'll have Charlotte towards the middle of the pack, maybe even in the higher top 10, top 5 range. But it is not a very common thing to see. Usually when you hear someone talk about rankings involving the Hornets, they are at best middle of the pack, generally towards the bottom. But in the most middle of September ranking system possible, CBS Sports' Sam Quinn has put together his best uniforms in the NBA, and he has ranked out the best uniform combos in the league. Now, a lot of times, as I mentioned, it would be quite a shock to see the Hornets ranked in the top 5 of really any category. But when it comes to jerseys and uniform combos, I think it would be a surprise if the Hornets weren't in the top 5. That is somewhere we know that they thrive. A real bragging point in Charlotte is the uniform, is the color combination, is the jersey makeup. And Sam Quinn has the Hornets ranked at number 4, the 4th best uniform in the NBA. I don't hate that. I think that's probably a pretty good spot. Pretty much since their conception, the Hornets have had an elite jersey and color combination. The 90s jerseys are still some of my favorite uniforms of all time. The old school logo, as you can see, is something I am a fan of. And it's not just the pinstripe combos or the old school uniforms or the old school logo. It's not just any one in particular of all of those things. It's a combination plus the color scheme. The teal and the purple are an incredible color scheme. They make the Hornets logo, the Hornets jerseys, the Hornets colors a much more popular brand than they probably should be. The Hornets are a small market team who have not been successful in terms of the wins and losses in the NBA. They've never made a conference finals, but their color scheme, their logo, especially the older school stuff, the more 90s style stuff, that logo, those color schemes, that pinstripe jersey are a global brand. There's something you can see them outside of North Carolina. You can see them not connected to Hornets fans pretty often. It's a great color scheme. It's a great jersey combo. It's something that can be taken outside of the Hornets fan base, taken outside of Charlotte, outside of North Carolina, and be promoted globally. And that is a very good thing. So I think that Quinn is on to something with a top 5 ranking for the Hornets uniforms. I tend to agree. Even the new jerseys, they're still very good. The logo's not necessarily as good, in my opinion, as it used to be, but I think the uniform combos are still very good. The purple, the teal, all of them still look very good. They pop, and they're unmistakably the Charlotte Hornets, and that is a good thing. Now, this ranking, of course, has nothing to do with on-the-court performance or how Charlotte will do this season, but we know how they'll look, and it's always nice to be ranked in the top 5 of anything, really. Got to take the wins where you can get them if you are the Hornets. Not a whole lot of praise coming for this team, so we'll take the uniform praise when we can get it. But speaking of praise, there is one guy on the team, one rookie in particular, Kon Knueppel, who we talked about yesterday, the possibility of him being a better version of Dalton Knecht. Remember, I told you I didn't think he was a better version of Knecht. I think he is better than Knecht, but I don't think he's a better version just because they are so different. But today, we're going to talk about some other love that Kon Knueppel has been getting. Another big name in sports media has shouted out Kon Knueppel just kind of randomly a little bit there. Bill Simmons was on the Zach Lowe show recently and said that, quote, "I guarantee this guy will be on Team USA in 2028. And he was talking about Kon Knueppel. We didn't expect in this segment where they were talking, the Simmons and Zach Lowe were talking about the possible guys who are going to be on the Olympic team in 2028. Again, folks, it's September. League hasn't started yet. Remember, we're just kind of firing off at the hip here, and that is what Zach Lowe and Ben Simmons were talking about, which is what inspired him to make this statement about Kon in the first place. So again, a random bring up is very nice. Simmons was just thinking about it, so it's something he obviously is serious about, something he does mean when he says. He did credit Kon's ability to play multiple positions internationally. He could probably play the 1 through the 3. He can do that in the NBA if he's got to as well. But there's multiple positions that Kon can play. He's got the ability to switch onto those multiple positions on defense as well. Again, really 1 through 3. If he had to get caught in a spot and switch to a 4, he could probably survive for a possession if need be. That's something that Kon can do, not just for the Olympic team, but taking into Charlotte as well. And something that I've talked about on the show is his ability to move around and play without the ball. We know that probably is one of, if not Kon's biggest strengths, is his ability to move around, find open spots, and play without the ball. He can have a lot of success there, as we saw him do that at Duke last year, and even put it up on a brief display while out in Las Vegas. Another interesting thing that Bill Simmons had to say was when talking about those things, talking about his ability to play multiple positions, ability to switch on defense, and ability to move without the ball. He said, quote, "very Derek White-ish," was exactly what Simmons said when talking about Kon Knueppel. Now, we're not going to qualify that as another comparison for Kon, another one of our segments where we break down comps and all of that. But I think that is the most interesting name that Kon's been connected to so far this summer. If he can come out and he can be a Derek White type player, not just for Team USA, but for the Hornets, then that will be a very good sign. That'll be good news for the Hornets. Got to take some positive there. That'll be that's a great player to have and try to kind of emulate if there is a guy we can get like that, and Kon turns out to be a Derek White style player. The country and the Hornets will benefit from that. Now, Simmons basically said, not in as many words, but reading over and paraphrasing, he basically said that Kon is a glue guy. Now, he doesn't mind doing the gritty stuff, grinding, moving without the ball, cutting, setting ball screens. Those kinds of things are what Kon does not mind doing, but at the same time, you could see him do those things, and you could still look up in the third quarter late into the game, and all of a sudden, he's got 15 and 7 with 5 assists. That's just the type of player that Kon is, and Bill Simmons thinks he could be a real glue guy, especially 3 years down the road going into the Olympics when Kon's had some time to grow and develop his professional game. I think that Simmons is on to something here. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but I may be inclined to agree that Kon has a very good chance in 3 years of being a guy who could be very useful on the international team and playing in the Olympics. Now, all of this being said, I know you're probably thinking, Vance, but we've been talking the last week about tempering our expectations for Kon. Now, I agree, and this does not do well. I'll be upfront. This does not do well at all for my tempering of expectations when I talk about Kon Knueppel. If guys like Bill Simmons are all in and believing in Kon like this, then it's hard for me to temper those expectations that I've been talking about all summer. But it's something we've got to try to do, something we've got to remember. He has yet to play an NBA game. We still need to watch that unfold on the court. But it is always nice to have the Hornets be mentioned, to have one of their guys be brought up randomly, unsolicitedly, and it not be a negative thing. He be brought up and talked about in a positive light. So again, another win, much like the Jersey rankings, that the Hornets will take. Charlotte will accept all wins they can get, even in the offseason. So it's nice to have some extra outside belief in the rookies, or in at least one of the rookies on this roster, and some promise about the future going forwards. Now, we've talked a lot about all of the rookies on the team so far this season. We know that they were all about them. We know how they were acquired on draft night. Kon Knueppel, Liam McNeely, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Sion James, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. So just so we're familiar, we know how all of that unfolded. But Sion James has been the rookie that we've talked about the least this summer. And that's not because he's not good. That's not because it was a bad pick. That's not because he's not going to be able to have any kind of impact with the Hornets. It's just that of those 4 guys, he's probably going to have the most, quote, traditional, if you will, rookie year. He's probably going to have the least immediate impact off the bench. Now, there are some factors that could change that, but the way things go right now, he's probably going to be the least impactful and the most traditional rookie of the 4 that the Hornets acquired this offseason. Now, again, I say that does not mean he won't see the floor at all. I think he'll be a part of the rotation. He'll find himself some minutes throughout this season. And it also doesn't mean he won't be a part of the long term for the Hornets. But again, this season is there's still some things up in the air. The Hornets are pretty deep at the guard and wing position, so it does allow for a guy like Sion James to kind of watch and develop and learn a little bit more in his rookie year, and not necessarily be thrust into major minutes, into a major part of the rotation. And he could, again, be a part of this team for the long run based on just on the fact that he gets that chance to develop as a young player, and it could benefit him going forward. What exactly is Sion James' ceiling in the NBA with the Charlotte Hornets? That's something we're going to talk about today. He was drafted, as we know, because of his defense and athletic abilities. He's a good enough defender right now to where if you put him out there, he would be just fine on opening night, guarding really the 1, 2, or 3 position. He could really hold his own, like I say, on opening night right now on the defensive end of the floor. It is his offensive game that'll take some time to get right. He's not a slouch on that end of the floor. He's not bad on offense. Again, he's a freak athlete. He's a pretty good shooter, but it will take some time for him to develop his offensive game and become an NBA-level offensive player. His 3-and-D potential, however, could see him earning more minutes and having a much bigger impact this season than I think if the Hornets can't find someone to play defense at that 3 position, or struggle at the guard position with on-ball, off-ball defending. Then that could thrust a guy like Sion James into the rotation much more heavily than I think originally. Now, if you remember earlier in this summer, when we talked about Sion James, we found a player comparison for him. Lou Dort was the player that he was compared to earlier in the season. I didn't dislike that. I didn't hate it. I don't think it's not world-beating comparisons by any means, but I don't think Lou Dort's not a bad player. He's a staple piece for the NBA champion right now, so I think that is not a negative comp by any means, but I do think there are some things that Sion James may be able to develop into doing. that Lou Dort doesn't exactly do. Thomas Gorski at Sports Illustrated does think that is the most likely ceiling for Sion James, a Lou Dort type of player. But I tend to lean that it's still a little bit difficult and early to nail down exactly what Sion can be in the NBA. He too, like Kon, has yet to play a minute in an actual NBA game. So it's a little bit more difficult to understand exactly what he can be in this league. As I mentioned, he's a freak athlete. He's a great defender, and he's a pretty good shooter, especially off the catch. He shot quite well at Duke. He's got the capabilities of driving and creating his own shot. That's just something he's going to need to perfect a little more in the league. So it's not at all a negative thing about Sion James saying that he won't have that major impact, that he won't get those big minutes coming into his rookie year. It's just the situation with the roster around him, and it could be, again, a good thing. He could develop into a better offensive weapon than a guy like Lou Dort. He kind of has a head start on that in the first place. He's a little bit better, in my opinion, coming into the league than we thought Lou Dort was as his rookie year unfolded. Now, that being said about Sion, he could become a better offensive player than a guy like Lou Dort, but at the same time, he could develop into more of a Pat Bev, Tony Allen type of guy where offense is really a bonus if you get it from him. He's on the floor to be that lockdown defender. And again, that's something his skill set would allow for as well. He's very capable of turning into an elite defender here in the NBA. Now, either way, no matter which one of those things happen, if he does develop a little offensive game, becomes that major 3-and-D player, and then adds a little more than just the three to it, that could be a great benefit. If he does become Pat Bev, Tony Allen, no one's going to complain about having a first-team all-defensive guy on their team or coming off their bench and being a leader in that locker room, which is another thing that I think Sion will be very, very good at. He's going to quickly become a leader in that locker room. He's going to use his age and experience to do so. Despite being a rookie, he is still one of the older players by age on the roster. He's 24 years old already, and he's played a lot of basketball. 4 years at Tulane, 4 years before he got to Duke, and then a year at Duke as well. So he's played a lot of basketball. He's got a lot of experience, and Charles Lee has already complimented his attitude and leadership ability. So I don't think it'll be very long before he becomes one of the more trusted guys on this Hornets roster. And not only the coaching staff, but the players feel comfortable with him being around and on the floor as well. One of those players he's going to need to make comfortable to get to have feeling good about him being on the floor is our favorite Charlotte Hornet, a guy who it would not be a regular episode of Hornets Daily if we didn't talk about LaMelo Ball. He has been mentioned all summer. LaMelo, a big talk of the town. We know that's one of the things about him. He does attract a lot of conversation. He is an enigma without question. And this time it's the guys over on the Hoop Collective who were doing their Southeast Division preview, and of course they had some thoughts about LaMelo Ball when it came time to discuss the Hornets. Bill Simmons, Tim McMahon, Tim Bontemps were on the Brian Windhorst. Bill Simmons was from our earlier segment. Brian Windhorst, Tim McMahon, Tim Bontemps were on the Hoop Collective podcast doing their division preview. They were talking about the Southeast Division, of course, and they said that realistically there's only two outcomes this season for LaMelo if the Hornets want to go into the right direction, the direction they've been talking about going all offseason. McMahon said he's got to be on the floor or he's got to be in a trade. And now what he means by that, of course, is LaMelo Ball has to be healthy or the Hornets need to move on from him. They need to get an entire season out of LaMelo Ball where he is healthy, where he is being productive. We know if he's on the floor, he's going to be productive. So those things go hand in hand. So they're going to need an entire healthy season out of LaMelo Ball, or McMahon, Bontemps, and Windhorst all seem to agree that it would probably be time for the Hornets to pack this in, move on from LaMelo Ball, get what they can for him, and continue to try to build the future around someone else, maybe Brandon Miller, maybe Kon Knueppel. That will be up in the air. But if LaMelo can't be healthy again this year, then all three of these guys on the Hoop Collective think it may be time for them to move on from LaMelo. Now, I don't necessarily disagree per se, but what I do question when it comes to that, what I want you guys to help me answer here is, what is a healthy season for LaMelo? How many games do we need him to play for that to qualify as we're good. It was a healthy year. It wasn't an injury-plagued year for LaMelo. Is that number 70? Is it 65? Is it 60? How many games does LaMelo need to play for Hornets fans, for the coaching staff, for everyone around the organization to feel like, oh, this wasn't a year where LaMelo got hurt. This wasn't another injury-plagued season for LaMelo Ball. What exactly is that number of games that he's got to play before it becomes time to pack it up and be like, well, we gave it a good run. We enjoyed having you here, LaMelo, but we're going to send you elsewhere to figure things out and build around other players. Again, how many games is that? That is my big question. That's what I'm wondering. I tend to lean it's more around the 62 to 68-ish number. I'm not sure if we can expect a full 70 out of LaMelo just yet. That would be love to be wrong about that. But I do know that the Hornets cannot afford another 45, 50-game season from their star player and try to band-aid things until he gets back and then do it all over again next season. If this is the year that LaMelo if this is another year that LaMelo is injury-plagued and can't stay healthy, he plays 45, 50 games, then yeah, McMahon, Bontemps, and Windhurst are correct. It is probably going to be time to move on from LaMelo. However, if he can get that number up around 60, 65, 70 games this season, then the Hornets are probably a much more successful team because he's been on the floor that long, and two, he's starting to prove that he is the guy to continue to build around with Brandon Miller, Kon Knueppel, and company joining him, but LaMelo is going to be that real anchor piece if he can stay healthy. That is going to be a very interesting thing to watch throughout this season. As we know, LaMelo has struggled to stay on the floor, but hopefully this year things change. The injury bug finds someone else to go bite and leaves the Hornets alone. That, of course, we're going to keep an eye on throughout the season as we continue to get closer to training camp, to knock on the door of the preseason, regular season right around the corner, folks. But that's going to do it for today's show. That's going to wrap this week up as always. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Leave a like and a comment down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think the number of games LaMelo needs to be healthy and be playing in for this season to not be considered another injury-plagued or injury-riddled one with LaMelo Ball. Have a good weekend, folks. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you right back here on Monday for a brand new episode of Hornets Daily.